I am in Madrid, Spain, and the next 48 hours are gonna be crazy.
It's nuts.
We're gonna spend $5,000, dine at restaurants with a combined 7 Michelin stars, and have one of the craziest food trips ever. And we're immediately starting on a high at a 2 Michelin star restaurant for lunch. Our first stop is a restaurant that exudes luxury. We are at Deessa by Quique da Costa at the Mandarin Oriental Ritz in Madrid, which has 2 Michelin stars and costs 240 euros per person. You start at their kitchen table, which is this sprawling display of a garden where you'll have your first bite before heading to the table for the start of a precise and technically excellent meal. A crispy crab claw with béarnaise and lemon verbena infusion that is well balanced between the rich sauce and the light broth. A delicate dish of roasted onions and seasonal mushrooms that's warming and earthy, but here's where the luxury starts. They have an entire caviar cart where they provide 2 different types of caviar, but also some salt-cured fish roe that I've never had before.
Traditionally for this fish, it's all like this, really hard. But as you can see, we have some cream inside.
Whoa.
The texture truly was creamy on these, and it's a selection that showcases their ability to not only source caviar, but also to alter it and create their own types of cured roe. After this, we obviously have to have a golden egg, because if a restaurant can't acquire a golden goose, then what's even the point? And from here, the dishes kept picking up. A delightful preparation of a fatty turbot with a slightly acidic sherry sauce that cuts through that fat nicely, a tea and prawn emulsion, which was really deeply umami flavored, and a historical favorite of the chef's, his albufera rice, which was probably one of the best tasting rice dishes I've ever had.
The typical and indigenous variety from Valencian region, we accompany it with a pesto of seaweed and we finish it with a carpaccio of oyster.
A bit of saltiness from the seafood components, and a light herbal finish on top. Overall, this is a wild way to start the trip, and Deessa is certainly one of the best restaurants in the city. Now we still have 5 more Michelin stars to knock down, and so far we haven't made much progress on our $5,000 target. Luckily, we're also staying at the Mandarin Oriental Ritz, which is the nicest hotel I've ever stayed at in my life.
I just checked into where we're staying, which is the Mandarin Oriental here in Madrid. It's gorgeous.
Rooms here cost upwards of $3,500, but what does that actually get you? Gold in your bathroom, a living room bigger than my entire apartment, and a bunch of welcome foods as well.
Wonder what is under here. It's a beautiful cake. Wow. The craziest thing about this place is just how much marble and gold there is everywhere. I mean, everywhere around the bathroom is just marble and gold. It's nuts.
But we came to Madrid for one thing: amazing food. And this next place not only has a tasting menu and a Michelin star, but it also has one of my favorite activities in Spain, flamenco. In the back room of a large flamenco theater, the restaurant Corral de la Morería has been producing some of Madrid's best fine dining. It only seats 8 people total, but I was not expecting to get such a refined meal at a flamenco place. Whether it's a white asparagus starter with a gelatinous rich pil sauce, or a sea bass served with a sauce that tastes exactly like the Basque pincho Hilda, fishy, sharp, and tangy, the dishes here are simple, delicious, and highlight local produce and Spanish techniques. The show costs 100 euros per person, but dinner here surprisingly only costs 80 euros a person. And after an amazing dinner, you move to the main room to wait for the show to start. Flamenco is incredible. So after a pretty packed day 1, day 2 was even more busy. We started our morning by going to the outskirts of Madrid, where we got to see how one of the best cheeses in Spain was made, starting with the sheep that they use for milk. This is Marqués de Mendiola, and it's one of the only cheeses in Madrid made from sheep's milk, and they've won awards around the world for the quality of their cheese. Also, look at how cute the little lambs are. I was literally getting attacked by them. Of course, we got to try the cheeses out, but you can actually just book this experience yourself too. It's pretty cool. Now we still have 4 more Michelin stars to go, and the last meal is actually one of the most fun meals that I've ever had, but for lunch we're going to a really special place where smoke and fire is king. I mean, their catchphrase is literally todo es humo, which means everything is smoke. This is Smoked's Room by Dani Garcia, and as the name suggests, everything here is touched by fire and smoke. It's a 2 Michelin star restaurant that costs 200 euros per person, and they're doing some crazy stuff. They mash entire truffles into their smoked butter, which was actually one of the best breads and butters I've ever tasted, but they also use smoke in more delicate ways. Shrimp from Morería with butter and smoked pepper that's really sweet and velvety with a touch of that smokiness. A smoked hamachi with roasted tomato essence and yuzu that's the perfect balance of smoky, tart, and refreshing. They create incredibly interesting flavor combinations like this nitro tomato with smoked eel, ajo blanco, and red bell pepper caramel, and their sweet corn chawanmushi with king crab and smoked uni was one of my favorite dishes. It's so smooth and buttery with just a hint of that sweetness from the corn and smokiness from the uni. And I love that almost every dish had a tableside component to the point where basically the servers were almost cooking the dishes themselves. Well, actually for their duck crepe Suzette with carrots and yuzu sauce, they literally were cooking it tableside. It's amazing. You finish with desserts that, of course, also use smoke, like their preparation of smoked chocolate, which genuinely was one of the most interesting desserts I've ever had. And just when you think it's over, they present this tower of desserts, and yes, even the check is presented with smoke. I've never seen a restaurant that is so committed to a concept like this, but it's one of the most unique restaurants in Madrid for sure. I mean, this is wild. We've already had 5 Michelin stars, spent over $4,000, and finally we made it to this last meal here in Madrid. And it's basically a Willy Wonka restaurant. You know how much I love these types of places. Our last stop is Coque, which is another 2 Michelin star restaurant. This is our most expensive restaurant, coming in at 365 euros per person, but it's also our longest meal yet because you go through 6 different rooms throughout the meal. You start in their lounge for a drink and small bite, then start progressing through a maze of different rooms throughout the building. A bar area with an Iberian ham bone marrow with uni and caviar. A huge wine cellar with this beautiful display that features wine-inspired bites like their red wine macaron. And this dark room that they call their sacristy with wild bull steak tartare in old mustard sauce. These initial bites had a huge range in flavors and textures, from rich and umami to light and crisp. It's a whirlwind start, but then you move into the kitchen. This is where we finally met the chef, Mario Sandoval, who prepares this incredible marinated Iberian pork in a tangy vinegar marinade. And this whole experience so far feels like you're just getting these little glimpses into different parts of their world. The next spot was the lab, where we had some smoky wild salmon and a beautiful shrimp dish with yellow chili. At this point, it's been over an hour already, and we haven't even sat down at our table. But when we finally arrived, the magic didn't stop. If nothing else, this place is fun, experimental, and entertaining. They don't care about formality. It's just a place that they can have fun with their food, try new things out, and serve guests in a way that makes them feel at home. And what more could you honestly ask for from a restaurant? Their soups are topped with siphon whipped foams. What looks like a pistachio cracker is actually basically an ice cream that's smooth and velvety on the tongue, but with a touch of saltiness from the caviar. And as the night went on, these little tricks and jokes became the norm because every single dish had flavor combinations that I just wasn't expecting. A rich and buttery foie gras paired with mango, can't say I've had that before. An eel dish that was served with a marinated smoked eel sorbet. You'd never think dishes like these work, but they really do. When people come to Madrid, they mostly think of tapas, but the fine dining here in Madrid is top tier and is on par with any other major city in the world. I mean, where else are you going to be able to get crepes with blueberries that are made inside of a giant egg, or a literal carousel of desserts to finish the night? Coque is just one of many amazing fine dining restaurants, and we've explored a ton of them over the last 48 hours. Yeah, it cost me an arm and a leg, but it was absolutely worth it. If you want to see more of the most amazing food around the world, definitely subscribe below, but for now, I'll see you later.